Tonight on EIV News at 9, a man steals a car.
And a manhole explodes in Government Center.
Plus, the Cambridge City Council votes for a call to impeach President Trump. All that and more tonight on EIV News at 9.
Hello and welcome to EIV News at 9. I'm Lindsay Perdue.
And I'm Joey Sack. We begin with tonight's top stories. 32-year-old William T. allegedly stole a woman's car while she was pumping gas at a Circle K in Tewksbury Saturday night. Surveillance footage shows the woman spraying T with gasoline moments before he drove away, dragging her several feet. Officers later found the abandoned car in Lowell. The woman was taken to the hospital for minor injuries. T was taken into custody today by Lowell police. No other information about the arrest is currently available.
Crews responded to several manhole explosions in the Government Center area of Boston Sunday morning. This video, taken by two journalists in the area, show the manhole cover shooting into the air after the explosion and landing only several feet away from first responders. Utility crews worked to put out the fire and evaluated the damage. Spokesman for Eversource believed that an underground cable failure was the cause of the explosion.
The Cambridge City Council voted Monday on a resolution that would investigate President Donald Trump violations of the Foreign Emoluments Clause and the Domestic Emoluments Clause of the United States Constitution. The two clauses restrict the president from benefiting financially from his position. The resolution passed in Cambridge and they became the fifth city to vote in favor of removing President Trump.
And now Sydney Zuckerman with a look at the late Chuck Berry.
In memoriam, Chuck Berry.
Father of rock and roll, Chuck Berry has influenced music of all genres. While he recently passed, his legacy will not be forgotten. Gaining popularity in the 1950s and 60s, his music helped plant the seeds for a more integrated America.
People generally think of Elvis Presley as the guy who took black music, quote unquote, and made it white. But the converse is true, because Chuck Berry was the black guy who took white music and then delivered it to a black audience. So it's not quite as black and white as we might think.
Berry was one of the first black artists played on white radio. He and Elvis Presley broke musical stereotypes.
A lot of it goes back to bringing the races together, and when people were able to identify, with that music, whether you were black or white, because it had that sound.
Berry represents a turning point in American music style. His blues progression was the first of its kind and extends through today.
I think those are sort of the three parts of his legacy. I think it was the songwriting, the trailblazing of a new style, and I think his appeal to younger audiences.
Berry incorporates sounds from the past and also foreshadows future music. These tributes and preambles give him a timeless feel. Stations are sure to pay tribute to him.
Boston's always had a rich rock and roll scene, so I would expect within the next couple of weeks, a lot of musicians are probably going to add some Chuck Berry tunes to their repertoire.
Chuck Berry seems to have a lasting influence on not just Boston, but the country as a whole. From inside the House of Blues, standing in front of Chuck Berry's portion of their mural, I'm Sydney Zuckerman, signing out for EIV News.
Thank you, Sydney. A woman was killed by her own car in Saugus Saturday after getting trapped under the vehicle. The 36-year-old woman was at a Sunoco gas station on Route 1, according to police. Around 9:50 in the morning, law enforcement was called to the scene where they found the woman underneath her Chevy Captiva. An investigation is underway to determine how the victim became trapped under the vehicle, and there's currently no information about her identity.
We now go to our political correspondent, Paul Ross, for a look at politics.
Thanks, Joey. Attorney General Jeff Sessions announced on Monday that the Justice Department has requested a federal court to give the city of Baltimore 90 days to review its policing practices. This comes after years of racial tension within Maryland's largest city, including the death of 25-year-old Freddie Gray at the hands of the police just 2 years ago this month. This resulted in numerous Black Lives Matter protests, which sprung up across the country, advocating for eliminating the double standard of how Black Americans are treated by the police and the government as a whole. Another day, another attempt for the Trump administration to pass a new health care bill. According to Bloomberg News, sometime late last night, President Donald Trump discussed with his closest advisors a plan to propose a new health care law to Congress sometime soon. This comes after a failure to replace the Affordable Care Act with the American Health Care Act 2 weeks ago. It is to be seen whether a new bill will have any traction in a divided Republican Party. And finally, the latest on the confirmation hearings for Supreme Court Justice nominee Neil Gorsuch. 2 weeks ago, it seemed all but certain that 49-year-old Colorado native Neil Gorsuch would be confirmed to the Supreme Court with a comfortable margin. However, the Democrats in the Senate have built up a resistance to the easy confirmation of the nominee to provide enough votes for a filibuster. A filibuster in this sense means that Trump may have to nominate a new candidate in order to overcome that 60-vote threshold needed to confirm Supreme Court justices. It remains to be seen what Senate Majority Leader Mitch McConnell and the Republicans will do to overcome this major roadblock. Joey, back to you.
Thank you, Paul. A mother and her 2-year-old child were rescued by firefighters after their car was submerged by floodwaters in Chelsea. The fire department responded to the call and arrived to Vale Street at around 9 a.m. Using a flotation device, a firefighter was able to rescue the child and the mother, and they got out of the car on their own. The department said the floodwaters were 2.5 feet deep and no other injuries were reported.
A 24-year-old driver faces charges after his 2002 Dodge Dakota pickup truck ended up in the water in Quincy. The crash happened just before 3 a.m. on Sunday off of Furnace Brook Parkway. Massachusetts State Police found the driver of the car as he was walking to his home in South Boston. While the driver did not experience any serious injuries, he now faces operating a vehicle while under the influence and leaving the scene of a car crash charges.
A military flare washed up on the beaches in Duxbury this Saturday. Police have closed the resident parking lot and beach as a precaution as fire officials survey Gurnett Road, where the military-grade device was found. A state police bomb squad was requested and they detonated the flare on the beach. No other details about the incident are available at this time.
Police in Pittsfield, Massachusetts are currently investigating the death of a person whose body was found in a trash container off of Tyler Street this Saturday. The person's name, age, and sex have not been released. Questions about the death were referred to by police to the Berkshire District Attorney's Office. A spokesperson for District Attorney David Capeless did not return a message sent on Monday.
A missing person investigation is underway for 23-year-old Michael Kelleher, who has not returned home since attending a Celtics game Wednesday night. Kelleher was last seen at the game where he was purportedly drinking and left in the third quarter. His cell phone and credit cards have reportedly not been used in the days since the game. According to his mother, Lori Kelleher, his cell phone was last pinged on Tremont Street near the Boston Common. On Friday, Lori went to hospitals and shelters in search of her son and subsequently reported him as missing to Southborough Police. Michael was last seen wearing a gray sweatshirt, khaki pants, and black sneakers.
3-year-old Jaden is back safe and sound at his home in Hudson, New Hampshire, after he was found wandering alone with no shoes or socks at an apartment complex in Londonderry on Thursday. Someone noticed Jaden walking around and called 911. Jaden could not remember his parents' names, so police went to posting a picture on social media for any leads, and now the child's father. 35-year-old Joseph Kilgren faces charges of child endangerment. Police say the child was staying at Kilgren's apartment complex since Wednesday night, and Jaden's mother confirmed that the child wandered off after his father fell asleep. She is grateful her son is safe, but calls her ex-boyfriend irresponsible for the incident.
When we get back, Jess and Paul will join us for a conversation about President Trump ending the Common Core. We'll be right back.
Lauren, what are you doing?
I'm getting ready to host Good Morning Emerson, of course.
Good morning, Emerson. What's that?
It's the best morning show ever that's on Tuesday and Thursday at 9 a.m.
Wow, how can I work on this?
Yeah, let's get going. Red leather, yellow leather, red leather.
Welcome back. We're now joined by our tech correspondent, Jess Philippone, and political correspondent, Paul Ross, for a discussion about President Donald Trump's decision on Common Core. So, you guys, there's been a recent report that President Trump is looking to end the Common Core. So what are your thoughts on that?
Well, from what I know that Trump is looking to localize Common Core and make it not as much of a federal issue, more of a state issue. And honestly, I think that might be a good direction for them to do that. I think that could actually benefit a lot of students.
It's something where it's a situation where the only people who actually appreciate and like Common Core are those in the centered right part of the Republican Party, meaning the establishment wing, a lot of Jeb Bush, Marco Rubio, John Kasich types. And this is something where Democrats and a lot of conservative Republicans will be agreeing on this, especially Education Secretary Betsy DeVos, who believes that Common Core should not exist and that should be at a local level, as you said.
Yeah, as someone who dealt with the Common Core as a student, I'm actually for this. I'm not usually for what Trump has to say, but at this situation, yes, I feel like it's time for Common Core to disappear. I think that has done a lot of
And
pain.
it's not the only education practice that the United States government is trying to go and pursue, as both Senator Bernie Sanders and Senator Elizabeth Warren have decided to come out with a bill to try to get affordable education for all 4 years for college students. So that's something that should be considered as maybe a major change to education policy in this country.
And just, with some controversy going around with Donald Trump having some difficulty passing some of his ideas, do you think this will be successful?
I think that he'll be able to pass this fairly easily, as many of the Republicans are trying to figure out whether or not to go and support Trump or to go against him, and the Democrats will be unified in going against Common Core, as it's really a situation where having it on a national level has not worked, and there's a lot of research on it, so we'll see what ends up happening.
All right, well, thank you guys so much for joining us.
Thank you for having us.
Yeah, of course.
And now here's some updates on the weather. What can you tell us, Aaron?
Well, everyone, the rain is back. It's going to be a pretty wet week. Tonight we have a low of 38 and more rain on the way. Tomorrow we'll get a break from the rain with a high of 43 and clouds and a low of 38 into the night. Thursday, the rain will be back with a high of 46 and a low of 44. And looking into Friday, we get a mix of sun and clouds with the warmest day of the week at 51 and a low of 39. Saturday, the clouds return with a high of 48 and a low of 37. Try and stay dry, everyone. That's all I have for now.
Thanks, Aaron. And now for a look at what's happening around the world this week. We're now joined in studio by our international correspondent, Moses Small. What can you tell us, Moses?
Thanks, Joey. Yesterday afternoon, a bomb blast killed 10 and injured 39 more in St. Petersburg, Russia. The bomb went off in the city's subway train while Vladimir Putin was visiting the city. He was miles away at the time of the explosion. Russian officials report that the homemade explosion detonated on a train in between stations. Photos on social media show the side door of the train torn apart by the blast. One more bomb was defused at a nearby stop. St. Petersburg has since ramped up security, and officials, including Putin, have spoken out against the attack. No one has claimed responsibility for the bombing, and investigations are underway. The city of Mocoa, Colombia is recovering after a mudslide caused widespread damage this weekend. The Colombian Red Cross estimates that over 200 were killed, 200 were injured, and that 600 in total were evacuated. The mudslide was caused by a downpour of rain that started on Saturday and rose water levels overnight. Aid workers are still in the city searching for survivors, and the next step is securing services like drinking water for those affected. 10,000 protesters gathered in Budapest on Sunday evening to support the Central European University. This university, also called the CEU, was under fire because new policy in Hungary could force it to move abroad. Many see this as an attack against the left by Hungary's right-leaning Prime Minister Viktor Orban. The CEU ranks highly around the world in subjects like political science and international studies, and it has support from sources outside of Hungary. The U.S. State Department, as well as 15 Nobel Prize winners, all show their opposition to closing the university. The Hungarian parliament will decide on this piece of legislation on Wednesday. And that's all the international news I have for tonight. Joey and Lindsay, back to you.
Thanks for the update, Moses. A dispensary for medical marijuana is now offering home delivery in Massachusetts for the first time. The Brockton-based dispensary In Good Health offers next-day delivery on all of their products to patients that are state registered. The service has state approval and is the first service of its kind offered in Massachusetts.
This Monday, Uber and Lyft drivers are required to submit background checks for tens of thousands of Massachusetts drivers. The checks were called for after a few drivers in Massachusetts were charged with rape, sexual assault, and intent to murder. Part of the checks' functions is to determine if a driver is a registered sex offender. This is part of a deal struck between Uber and Lyft with the state of Massachusetts. The two companies agreed to perform multi-state level criminal and driving background checks for all drivers in Massachusetts. The deal also required the state to conduct its own background checks, putting names through the state's criminal and sex offender registries and warrant management system.
And now our entertainment correspondent Allie Reed with a look behind the scenes at the Kids' Choice Awards.
Guys, follow me to the orange carpet. Come on, let's go. Come on. Hey guys, this is Allie Reed reporting to you from the orange carpet at the Kids' Choice Awards in Los Angeles. Stay tuned. It's going to be one heck of a night. We are with Sophia Grace. This is obviously not your first orange carpet. You're a pro at this point. I heard that you're coming out with a new show. Tell me about that.
My new show, Toy Box, is coming out on ABC. I'm not sure when, but it's coming out this year. And I've also been working on loads of new music.
Power Rangers movie coming out soon. Tell me about it.
You can expect for you not to be able to go home and go to sleep because you're gonna be too caught from watching the movie. It's literally gonna be one of the best movies of 2017.
So you're in Legends of the Hidden Temple.
Yes,
Tell me about it.
Oh man, bunch of action-packed family movie. Just a big action-packed family movie. I want to get signed.
I do too. What is this feeling like for you?
It's surreal. It's really a blessing, and to have younger kids that don't even know what Kenan and Kel and all that is, they just know Game Shaker and scream my name. That's awesome. That's awesome.
What are you most excited for tonight on this orange carpet?
Tonight, I want to see who's going to get slimed tonight, and I'm most excited to just see everybody.
I'm so excited to see John Cena get slimed. It's going to be epic. Nick.
Nickelodeon.
So we are here with Ashley Ross. How you doing?
I'm good, thank you. How are you?
And you're nominated.
I am.
Were you expecting that at all?
No, it was such a shock to me. I'm nominated for an Australian category called #Famous, and it still blows my mind right now. I'm still pinching myself about it.
Nickelodeon.
Boom.
Who are you most excited to see tonight?
Ellen DeGeneres, I love her. This is Refeed exclusive, and I'm Sophia Grace.
Hey guys, thank you so much for tuning in. I'm Allie Reed, giving you all the latest feed, and we'll see you next time.
Thanks, Allie. Mayor Marty Walsh participated in the opening ceremony for a new playground at the Boys and Girls Club of Dorchester. The Where Angels Play Foundation Playground was built in honor of Victoria McGrath, a Boston Marathon bombing survivor who was killed in a car crash last year. In addition to Mayor Walsh, Jimmy Plord, the firefighter who carried McGrath to safety after the marathon, was also in attendance. After words from Plord and Mayor Walsh, the McGrath family cut the ribbon and raised the American flag.
Now we check in with Jess for a look at business and technology.
Thanks, Joey. The United States seaports are joining forces after decades of constant competition over cargo, according to the Wall Street Journal. It's all in response to unprecedented consolidation in the shipping industry. Shipping regulators are in the process of reviewing a new proposal by the port authorities of Georgia and Virginia, hoping to discuss an increase in coordination in operations. The nation's busiest ports, Los Angeles and Long Beach, California, are also allegedly sharing more data. They plan to save money by putting more cargo on larger ships that make fewer stops. Many ports fear that they would be left out of the shipping route. Thus, they're investing in billions to create deeper harbors and install bigger cranes to handle the megaships. Experts claim joining forces among ports is the next logical step. This week, in a final 215 to 205 vote on Senate Joint Resolution 34, the House voted to repeal broadband privacy regulations that the Obama administration's FCC introduced last year. The FCC rule, designed to protect consumers, required ISPs to consent from their consumers in order to share their private data. Under the regulation rollback, limits have decreased on ways ISPs will be allowed to interact with sensitive user data. This includes not just allowing providers to create marketing profiles based on browsing history of their users, but also letting them deploy undetectable tools that track web data too. Looking at a new tech highlight for Apple Inc., the company soared this first quarter of 2017 with their best quarterly performance in the last 5 years, up 24%. This performance was strong enough to make Apple Inc. the biggest gainer among the 30 stocks that make up Dow Jones Industrial Average, contributing a massive 191 points, a fifth of the total gain for the blue chip index for the quarter. Apple Inc. also added $144.8 billion to its market share, also an all-time high. The last Fortune 500 company to do that in a single quarter was actually Apple Inc. back in the first quarter in 2012, according to Barony Associates. And that's all for Business and Tech. Back to you at the desk.
So yesterday in Boston was opening day, and I have a question for our sports correspondent, Brian. Brian, and then how was opening day?
When we get back, a look at the marathon spending. Plus, Fenway Franks are officially ranked. We'll be right back.
Our debates are on fire. Ah! Oh no, why did I say that? Oh no, I'm on fire still and it's so hot. Why have I done this? Oh no, I'm still on fire, but one speechless on the Emerson Channel. It's really good and full of action.
Welcome back. This year's Boston Marathon is expected to bring an estimated $192 million to Boston's economy. Organizers expect to see this boost based on events, tourism, and sponsorship. 30,000 participants are registered for this year's race, including over 6,000 runners from 95 countries. In addition to the racers, organizers say over 1,000 members of the media will be covering the marathon, giving international exposure to one of Boston's greatest traditions.
The National Hot Dog Council determined that Fenway Franks are the best hot dogs in Major League Baseball. No surprise there. The hot dogs won in the Hot Dog Madness bracket, followed by the Washington Nationals, Los Angeles Dodgers, and Seattle Mariners. Additionally, Fenway Park ranks 6th among other ballparks for the number of hot dogs eaten there. Research by the council found that attendees of Fenway Park consume more than 850,000 Fenway Franks each season. That's a lot of dogs.
Over 1,500 people walked in Boston this Sunday to raise over $300,000 for research on multiple sclerosis. About 12,000 people in Massachusetts alone are affected by the nerve disease, which cuts off the connection between the brain and the body. Symptoms include numbness, tingling, and blindness. The 3.5-mile Walk MS started around 9 a.m. at Boston University's Nickerson Field and ended at the same location. It was hosted by the National MS Society, an organization that brings together impacted communities. Friends, family, and coworkers of people with MS participate in over 500 fundraising walks a year. Walk MS started in 1988 and over the years has raised over $970 million towards treatment and care for multiple sclerosis.
police are investigating a murder after 2 people were found dead inside a Peabody home. The bodies of at least 1 man and 1 woman were found wrapped in rugs and plastic. The police have issued a lookout for 2 suspects involved in the murders. They are believed to be driving a stolen 1992 Acura and may be armed. And finally, we go to Brian with a look at sports.
Well, guys, we all knew Tony Romo's time with the Dallas Cowboys was up and that he'd have to find a new home in 2017. We just didn't think it'd be in the broadcast booth. Rather than play one more season in a different uniform, Romo chose to retire as a Cowboy and join CBS Sports as their new lead color commentator. The 36-year-old is reportedly retiring due to his health, but despite his many injuries, Romo still managed to have an impressive 13-year career, passing for over 34,000 yards and close to 250 touchdowns. While Romo never won the Super Bowl, he'll still be considered one of the greatest quarterbacks in Cowboys history. In a move already receiving plenty of backlash, the NHL announced Monday it will not participate in the 2018 Winter Olympics in South Korea. This decision comes after team owners expressed their frustration with the league having to shut down mid-season in order to accommodate for players participating in the games. The Players Association called the decision, quote, short-sighted, and that any monetary losses the league would suffer would be outweighed by the positive effects of showcasing the sport to a global audience and having its players represent their home countries. Regardless, the decision appears final. On the bright side, after a long winter, baseball is finally back in Boston. The Red Sox began their 2017 season with a 5-3 win over the Pittsburgh Pirates at Fenway Park on Monday. The city is buzzing with excitement for what should be yet another World Series run. Despite losing David Ortiz to retirement, the Sox still boast an impressive lineup and a 3-headed monster atop the rotation in Rick Porcello, David Price, and Chris Sale. Expect the Sox to win their 2nd straight AL East title. As for what happens in October, well, we'll have to wait and see. Out on the West Coast, the San Francisco Giants didn't have an ideal start to their season, losing 6-5 to the Arizona Diamondbacks on Sunday, but that's not what fans will remember. That's because Giants ace Madison Bumgarner not only struck out 11 batters, but hit 2 booming home runs in a legendary opening day performance. This doesn't come as a shock to most fans, as just last season, Bumgarner homered off the likes of Jacob deGrom and Clayton Kershaw. Bumgarner now has 16 career home runs and will likely continue adding to that total all summer long. That's all for sports. Back to you guys, the desk.
Thanks, Brian. So, I actually have a question. I saw on Facebook, I saw David Ortiz have a little message for Red Sox Nation. I'm really hoping that, he'll make an appearance at Fenway Park. Do you think you can imagine that David Ortiz is going to be, continue to be a big part of Red Sox Nation, even though he's retired now? What do you think?
Well, absolutely. I mean, it's definitely tough to lose David Ortiz. The Red Sox are going to miss him. I think they do have to try to move on, though. They have a great young team in place, even without Ortiz. Obviously, Andrew Benintendi hit a game-winning home run yesterday, a 3-run bomb. Really excited for his chances for Rookie of the Year. I think they'll be fine without Ortiz. They might even be a more flexible team, a more athletic team, with not having, a 40-year-old DH on the base path. So I think they'll be a quicker team. I don't know if they'll be a better team overall. Their pitching staff has a lot of question marks, but they definitely will be there in the end. They definitely should win the American League East, and I'd be stunned if they don't make another deep postseason run.
Well, I also think, in addition to just some great baseball that we saw on opening day yesterday, we also saw a great sort of opening ceremony with the Patriots making an appearance with Tom Brady and, the now 5 Lombardi trophies, and also the fact that Tom Brady, he has his jerseys back, the jerseys that he lost, and he also got them stolen again, this time by teammate Gronkowski, because, it's Gronk. He's got to do something funny. And also, I think it's great that, the first pitch tossed out by Tom Brady, he also, he actually, made the, they made the catch. It was actually a good throw. Just another indication that Tom Brady really, truly is the GOAT, the greatest of all time.
He is. And as somebody who's lived in Massachusetts my whole life, don't know too much about baseball itself, but I can tell you as a New England native, there is nothing better than opening day, hearing that Sweet Caroline blast through the speakers in Fenway yet again, and I really hope we have a great season. I'm really rooting for our New England teams. We love our sports here.
Yeah, and it's like, I love sports when it's New England. That's
I think
all
we all
I care
do
about.
here. Yeah. Well, that's all the time we have for tonight. Tune in next week for all the Boston news you need. And in the meantime, check us out online at eivnews.com or on Twitter @EIV News. I'm Lindsay Perdue.
And I'm Joey Sack. We'll see you next week. Good night.